be able to look back at this presentation. Or there you go, Matt, thank you. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. We have the SWIMS team here with us. We'd like to give you high-level summary of some of the new things in SWIMS 3.4. So appreciate you joining us. This is a multi-part presentation. You see the components we're going to cover, the primary things that got upgraded in this round. And so we'll hand it off to team member by team member. Wanted to just remind you real quick how to access, or the central point of access for all the SWIMS information. You can get it straight off of the HEC website. If you're on CoreNet, go to that software link, find SWIMS, and it'll take you to our SharePoint site. So there you'll find all the links to the SWIMS documentation portal, SWIMS discourse, support for Cumulus, and all the other components, OpenDCS, including the teams, the MS teams for the MMC and SWIMS support. And then just last night, we updated a patch version for SWIMS 3.4, so we now have the latest client version of SWIMS on that site. The release notes have been updated too. This SWIMS 3.4, as you know, was released in end of January. We made a patch with just one feature that was needed for ratings type operations, editing of ratings data, creating ratings data, shifting ratings, that kind of thing. So that was the only thing added in this patch that we put out yesterday. So nothing's changed since January, just that little addition for offices that deal with SWIMS view type editing of ratings. So anybody who's picked up SWIMS 3.4.0 and started their upgrades, that's fine. You can just jump straight to 3.4.1. So we'd like everybody really to just download the latest version and go forward with that, please. All right, so we'll start with the database side there. I think either Eric or Kat.
I'm on.
No.
Eric, I'm on.
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, so this is database and server updates for 3.4. Just to note that these database and server steps need to be completed before you update to 3.4. So the first one is that you need the latest database schema, which was released back in December. And I think I just checked, and I think everyone is updated. There's except for 5 or 6 offices. So Kat will be in touch with those 5 or 6 offices and make sure you guys get that update, because there's some features that won't work if you're not on the new database schema. Also, I had sent out a while ago, and I can probably send it out again. And in the release notes, there's notes on this. You need to set up a server-side certificate and trust store. And the steps for that are in the link on this page. So that has to be done. Otherwise, you will not be able to connect from the Cavi or SWIMS view to your server. So you need to have that. Go through those steps that are in that link. It involves creating a key, sending information to me and Mike Nielsen. We'll sign the certificate, put it back on your server, and then there's a couple other steps you have to do. You have to do this both on your primary server and on your COOP server. You have to go through all the steps on both of your servers. The final update is that data streams are now using Python 3. So if you use data streams, make sure your Python 3 link is linked to the Python version that's listed there, which is a new compiled version of Python that's on your server. And it's also the Python version that you use with SWIMS Python and things like that. So make sure that link is updated if you are using data streams. Otherwise, your data streams won't work. So those are the three major updates and things you have to do before you start using the 3.4 client software.
All right, thanks, Eric. Oops, sorry about that. Okay. About CDA, Mike Nielsen can't be with us today, but just a few notes on that. CDA in the last couple of years has gotten a lot of enhancements to support a lot of the time series operations and locations, ratings, all of that, even Reggie type requirements, and tons of bug fixes. There's still new additions happening every now and then. Bottom line is it's been developed enough for us to put it to test. So with this one's 3.4 release version, we've been asking folks to get their T7 servers updated or install CA on their T7 so that we can start testing against that, and then highlight any issues that are still needed to be addressed with CDA before final migration to the cloud. So this is the version where we're anticipating good usage and testing of CDA to help us polish it up for final migration. So hopefully by SWMS 3.6, we'd have all that's needed there. We'll talk a little bit more about the CAVI and other SWMS view aspects that have been upgraded to support CDA type operations a little bit here later in this presentation. All right, so yeah, please try and use it. We do have a test instance in the cloud too. If you are going to start testing it, just reach out and we'll help you with that. Okay, I'm going to hand it off to Russell, talk about SWMS view.
Yeah, so some of these slides and images probably aren't new. I presented some of this at the in-person surge last year and then the last surge call, but some of the new features and it's in SWMS view. For the graphical editor and the data validation editor, there are new layouts. So if you go up to the view menu, there's a layout. You can select a vertical or horizontal layout. The vertical is a default that you probably are familiar with. The horizontal is kind of making more of the table viewable for you. So there's your user preferences. So they're user specific. So they're not for the whole office. So set up however you feel comfortable with. You go to the next slide, Waz. Also, we've added additional fill options. So like the linear fill and kind of the clear options have always been the things. We've added more fill options and exposed more of them as like shortcut buttons, action buttons, similar to the OSI if you're familiar with it. So we've added those to the side panel so that you can access those a lot quicker. They're still available in the shortcut if you right click and go to the linear fill just like you're familiar with. So those have just been exposed a little bit more. Also, some offices have asked for being able to display the public name of time series. So we've added the ability to add the aliases to a time series. So they get appended to the front so that when you're going through the data set menu, you can actually see them appended to the front. So again, those are user specific. So if you set those up, they should be remembered for your future use. So if that's something you're interested in, check those out. Go to the next slide. One of the big things that has been added to SWMS view is the measurements tab. So when you open SWMS view, you should see a measurements tab, and this has been added for a lot of the offices that collect their own field data or have a lot of field measurement data for flow measurements historically. So you can bulk load these historical measurements into your database. So when you go into the measurements tab and import measurements, there's a dialog that pops up. Again, all these are sitting in spreadsheets. We have a template. So in the lower left corner of that dialog, there's a generate template. So you may have to copy your measurements into that template to get it to import correctly. So this is a new feature. I do expect some hiccups and some issues as you go through it. So please test this out, report them back to us, and we will try to get them addressed as soon as possible for you. But this has been a feature that's been requested for a handful of districts, and so I think they've been waiting for this to come out for several years. So let me know if you have any issues with it. Forward. Another thing, especially with you guys doing historic data being added to the database, the drag and drop feature has been added to SwimsView. So under the data menu, there should be a copy DSS to SWIMS database dialog that pops up, and you will be able to drag and drop DSS records into your SWIMS database. So this will hopefully make ease of being able to copy those records into your SWIMS database. I do caution you in making sure that the data you're copying from your DSS file to your SWIMS database, you check the datum it's in, the time zone it's in. Make sure the data you're dumping in is correct before you drop it in there. I might recommend you create your own time series record in the SWIMS database for a landing spot for it, and then do the merge once it's in the database. But this feature is here hopefully for ease of use of getting all your historic records from all those old archived DSS records that are sitting down everyone's shared drives and local external hard drives. So check that out if you guys are interested in that. And then some other enhancements, we have added time zones, I believe, to everything that pops open in SwimsView. So I think one of the things that didn't have time zones listed on it was plots. So it should give you the view time zone that you're viewing the plot, the table, graphical editors, data validation editors. So you should be able to see what time zone you're viewing it in. So hopefully it's a bit more transparent so it's less confusing on you're guessing on what time zone you're looking at. So those should be labeled anywhere that you're seeing those. If you don't see those, let me know. And then obviously we just talked about CDA, the read writes. So I won't belabor on those. And then performance issues. So especially going into the historical records of editing these large records, with the data validation editor, we are only saving the changes back to the database. So if you're doing multiple years of edits within your SWIMS database for your time series records, it's only saving the changes back, which was a performance hit previously. That's only available in the data validation editor. Here in the next couple of releases, we're hoping to add that to the tabular editor, but that enhancement's available for the data validation editor. And then if you go to the next slide, Fawaz. Few things coming up. We're gonna have standalone here this spring. So we're trying to add some of the performance improvements to there for this spring. And then we're also looking at doing some releases this fall. So I'm hoping to get 2 releases of SwimsView out twice a year. So hopefully you'll get some of those performance improvements more frequently rather than having to wait for the entire SWIMS Cavi build. But if you guys have any more questions, I don't want to belabor too much with it, but feel free to reach out.
Yeah, and then we'll save time for the end here. We're going through a lot of stuff, but we'll have time for more questions or your questions. All right, so moving on to the modeling suite, starting with the Cavi. Main thing with Cavi updates this last version is that a big jump from Java 8 to Java 11. It's a lot of security issues that we have to deal with, and that was an important under the hood type update. And then DSS 7. Cavi is now reading and writing DSS 7. That's the primary version that we're going to go forward with. All the models that are part of the Cavi, everything from METView HMS down to RAS, read and write in DSS 7. The other thing that the Cavi has, so I'll show you some of this in a second, but yeah, we've had CDA reads supported for a while in the Cavi. In this last version, we finally have the ability to write back to the local servers or the national database with CDA. And then there's new plugins for dealing with ensembles, and Simon will cover that a little bit later. I do want to highlight the DSS 7 aspect. We've been telling folks that the very first step before you even upgrade your watersheds or open them in the new version of SWIMS, there's a utility, a script, a DSS script, thanks to Mr. Perryman, that you can bring up a dialog like you see, point to the directory that you want to look at, whether it's a single watershed or your whole SWIMS home directory that includes the watersheds, the forecasts, even your database files that are stored locally. This script is pretty smart. It can look at the source directory that you're pointing to, and then you're going to have to prepare an archive directory that, where the old DSS6 files that are discovered by the scripts are going to get moved to before they get converted. So you're not going to lose out on the original DSS files. It's just they're going to get inventoried first, like you see, flagged in red. And then when you actually execute the script, it'll start to go through them one by one, do the move of the file, convert, and put the converted copy in the new watershed. There's a tutorial on that. It's listed there, and looks like it got posted in the chat as well. If you have any issues or need help with that, please reach out to us. This is we've tested it even on multiple watersheds at the same time. 10 gigabytes worth of DSS files. It might take 15 minutes or so for 10 gigabytes worth of files, but it's generally pretty fast. The good thing about this tool too, it'll actually save a log file. If for some reason a DSS file cannot be converted, it will flag it. So it can be and should skip it. So there's the ability to go back and look at individual files, and if there's more work that needs to be done there, troubleshooting, obviously reach out to us in that case. All right, so for CDA rights, a lot of the data editing abilities from the CAVI through bringing up tables or validation editor from time series icons or the validation editor itself, data status summary, even CAVI posts now are able to point to the CDA source and do writes. Again, we'd appreciate help with that. Another thing, for districts that have been scripting with the legacy DB API Python library, that's been replaced by SWIMS-CHI. There's a tutorial on that linked also right here in the slide. So yeah, if you have any issues with that, please reach out. But we'd like everybody to basically change from DB API to SWIMS-CHI if you're doing scripting. And the changes that have to be done in the script should be fairly minimal, just pointing to the new calls from the new library. All right, and the last thing I want to remind you here is that with this version, this is going to be the last version that includes MFP. As part of the upgrades that the districts have to do, we're asking everybody to start removing MFP from your watersheds to clean them out, because the next version of SWIMS will not have MFP there. And if MFP model alternatives are left in your watersheds in the future, you might start running into annoying warnings or errors. So it'd be nice to clean things up this year with SWIMS 3.4. Okay, and yeah, so hopefully we stay on schedule with the next version for SWIMS 3.5. This should be done by September. All right, Simon, talk about Ensemble Forecast Processor.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Next slide there, Ross. Thank you. All right, so new for SWIMS 3.4 is the Ensemble Forecast Processor. It's a brand new plugin, so it's part of the program order. You can create a new program order and forecast runs with the EFP wherever you want in the order. It is for taking ensemble data and specifying locations. So if you've got RFC forecasts of ensemble data and calculating statistical metrics from those ensemble time series. A lot of this work was brought over from the Watt processor in support of FIRO studies and regulations. So one potential use of this is to calculate a statistical metric of the, let's say, on this plot here, the 5-day volume, what's the 90th percentile, and use that scalar metric in a reservoir or ResSim rule stack. So that's one option. So it's FIRO applications. Also, there's an option in there for calculating or returning a time series of a particular ensemble time series, so a particular member based on the metric. So return one that has the closest volume. So there's a couple different options here. There's more information available in the user's manual, and we'll also be having a tutorial coming online pretty soon that will walk through some of the setup. So this is still pretty new. So if you have any questions on setup or ideas for potential improvements, either reach out to me or also use the voting feature on Discourse if that's something you want to see as well.
Thanks, Simon. All right, let me tell you about MetView updates. Really, majority of the updates are for more convenient editing capabilities, but there's also a new plugin to work with Cumulus. So I'll walk you through some of these features. First with Cumulus. So now we're only from the MetView package with SWMS, you'll be able to see an icon, a Cumulus icon in the MetView. So this is only limited for the core, and it'll bring up a dialog similar to what you see in the extract editor in the CAVI. Primary use case for this is that for districts that have forecasts that look at a few weeks, a month long look back for either warming up the model or just routing time for a big system. It takes time to process the grids on the Cumulus service side sometimes before even downloading it with an extract. So having a local database file already pre-populated for the past week, month, whatever you need, and then just going into the routine of downloading 1 day at a time worth of grids for the daily routine. That's a primary use case. Obviously, this could serve well too in standalone if you're looking at studies or whatnot, but that's the main purpose of it in SWMS. Then for making edits to grids or creating what-if scenarios, there's now a zone creation editor in MetView. So next to where you add maps, there's a zone node. It'll bring up an editor and allow you to create zones off the shapefile for your basin. And you could do it through an editor like you see in the bottom right-hand side where it lists all the subbasins that it's reading from the shapefile you loaded. Or you can click directly on the shapefile. When this editor is open, it'll be synced and dynamically update your selections, whether you're making them through the editor or shift, click, multi-select polygons in the map directly. So you can create multiple zones, break up your watershed, headwater, maybe for a zone to do, factors or edits on the storm, that kind of thing. There's also an editor that allows you to do zone-based adjustments. So after you create zones, this editor will be able to recognize the zones you created, and you'd be able to make edits hour by hour or make them per day, and then let MetView do some disaggregation or normalize the edits for the individual time intervals. So if you're using the uniform type method with the zone editor, you can enter a new value or factor up the daily total, for example, and let MetView evenly distribute that new volume that you picked for that zone, like you see in that example with the upper column, and let it distribute it for each time step. Or if you were to choose the normalized, you could enter a new total for the day, but that total will only be applied to time intervals where the grids actually had precip. So if there was no precip at all in any of the cells and for a grid in a particular time step, it will not receive that in that normalized pattern. So some good options there. Hopefully make it quicker to make what-if type scenarios or make adjustments to data, especially if you're looking at SWE, you're not sure about the quality of it, and you want to make adjustments. So this should be handy. Appreciate some feedback on the usage of it, and we'll try and improve it based on user experiences as we go. There's also now the ability to do time-based edits directly from the time window scanning tool. So if you've got data loaded for your look back or your forecast, and you'd like to go grid by grid and make an edit if you think there's an interval where there's a suspect grid, or you'd like to make an adjustment for any reason, you could go and change that slider control and hone into that time interval and make an edit on that grid, and then go to another time interval and make another grid. So you can step through grid by grid or time interval by time interval, make some adjustments and apply some edits that way. You can also adjust the slider toolbar to look at, say, one day by day, and make an adjustment to change the daily volume and make a what if scenario that way. So you have some extra flexibility there. Yeah, so between the new zonal editor and the ability to do some editing while you're scanning through the grids, that should give you some extra flexibility. And then for all those edits, there's the edits tracker tool. So any edit you make from any, whether you make them from the map or any editor, the tracker tool will list the edits based on the order of that edit that was made. And you'll be able to look at that editor and even adjust some of the values of the edits if you like directly from there. You can undo them, redo them from there, or clear out all edits altogether. So lots of conveniences there. There's also ability to export your edit. So if you made a what if scenario and adjusted the grids, whether you bumped up the values or shifted the grids or rotated them, and wanted to log those edits for reference, you could export them to text report for archiving. You can also export them as a JSON script to re-import back, so that if you like those types of edits and you want to apply them on a routine basis, you can import them back for a new forecast and let them apply that way. All right, so those are the menu features. We're going to move on to HMS. Matt? Or is it Alex?
Good morning. I'm taking it for us.
Yeah.
So with this version of SWIMS, we're using 4.12 by default. So it's a couple iterations since the last one. I think 3.3.1 came with 4.10. So these are just a handful of features that we wanted to highlight. You can go to the HMS documentation to see the whole slew of new features and bug fixes they've done between 4.10 and 4.12. So the first one we wanted to highlight was the improved terrain data management. So now HMS will only retain one copy of terrain data per your project. and so similarly to like how RAS does it, we have our terrain and our main watershed now, and we create a forecast. HMS will redirect its linking to the parent watershed, and so it's not moving around terrain anymore. So this is going to save us time and storage. One quick note with this one though, in 4.12, if you don't have your terrain in your watershed, it can cause an issue. I don't think it was a very descriptive issue, but so in the past we had always suggested moving your terrain out of your HMS model for your real-time modeling, but now we're suggesting putting it back in, and moving forward it shouldn't be that much of a memory hog or anything like that. And so please move all your terrain files back into your HMS folder starting in this version of SWIMS. And then there's been a new infiltration method included, linear deficit and constant loss. This is a modification of the initial constant loss method. It accounts for changes in infiltration capacity as a function of cumulative infiltration and can be applied as an event-based or continuous model. And then we've also added default values and constant values for gridded temperature index snow method. So in the past, we've had to create fake grids for HMS to do the initialization for various parameters like SWE. And so now we can do a parameter grid if we want to, but we can also define a constant value. So we can define what value we want it to be, or the default value. And that's just based on the defaults in HMS, which can be found in their documentation. And so there isn't a need anymore to create dummy grid files for the gridded temperature index snow method. So that's great. And then added the variable time of concentration and water storage coefficient relationships can now be utilized within the Maud-Clark transform method. So this is the excess precipitation versus the time of concentration, and our relationship can be used to stimulate these effects in both spatial and temporal appropriate ways. The variable Clark unit hydrograph method allows for users to make use of these excess precipitation versus TC and R relationships. And so, again, these are just a couple that we wanted to highlight, but there's a whole slew of new features and bug fixes between 4.10 and 4.12. So go and check out the HMS documentation if you're interested.
All right, thanks, Alex. Let's see. Sarah, are you with us?
Oh, I guess my camera is in the wrong place, but hello.
There you go.
I'll turn that off. Yeah, so for ResSim, ooh, can you go back to the prior slide or?
Sure.
Uh-oh. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so we've all been using the 3.5 beta with swims for quite a while now, so you're probably pretty familiar with everything that's in there, but I wanted to highlight that we have fixed a fair number of bugs in some of the newer features. So the conditional release allocation sets have been cleaned up and hopefully are working smoothly. I think there were some hiccups with that initially. The global variables have been kind of redesigned and improved quite a bit since their initial unveiling. So that also hopefully is working pretty nicely now. There's still more that we're planning to develop on global variables, but right now, hopefully it's pretty usable for y'all. The OSI look and feel had a few new options that you can see in that menu that came along. I'm not sure how well, how clean the OSI is working. Hopefully it's better, and we're moving forward to keep making that better. And then the prescribed release rule, just to remind you all that exists as a way to it's kind of like a way to do overrides, but within the rule stack. So those are some of the key 3.5 features that have had bug fixes and been improved since maybe the earlier 3.5 betas and certainly since 3.3. Okay, next slide. Simon, I saw a question. Should I go ahead and, what was that? Can we add a reference time series in the OSI without having to zero missing data by using the global variables? I know that we do have global variable time series. I will have to check on that to make sure.
Sarah, this is Evan.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if global variables are, I'm not sure if it allows you to. We've had a lot of back and forth about what to do with missing data in global variables. I tend to be on the side of let the user deal with it if it's missing. So, Paul, I don't know if that's going to be a big something you might want to try, and I think we are still maybe messing with how that's going to work. But yes, I think that's one application of it and would be a good reason to not enforce filling in the data.
All right, thanks. And sorry, that was Paul Simon.
Yeah, sorry, it took me a second to read the name there too.
Yeah, it just flashed on the screen, but okay, thanks, Evan. And then the other piece for ResSim, I wanted to mention that we did have to make a patch release, so 3.5.1, when we did that final integration testing with swims and realized that there were a variety of DSS 7 related issues and surprises that came up, with when you're going back and forth with reading and writing between new and old files. So the things that we generally addressed there were to add logging information on what DSS version was being used to improve the write precision. So ResSim always would write to double precision and make sure, so it was making sure that that everything's writing that way. We improved the error messaging so that if you do bump into issues, hopefully you get a better clue on what's going on there, and fixed a bug with where datum was being associated with flow records, really confusing things. So that's all been cleaned up. And then there's one more feature that was added, kind of a beta feature to the 3.5.1 patch, which is a way to track watershed information. So some of our other HCC programs do have ways that you can kind of log text associated with that model as a whole, and ResSim never had that, where we have various descriptions in our editors, but this is a way to do overall watershed data. And so there's an editor on your main window where you can make a change log or track things that are happening with your watershed as you're handing it off back and forth to other people, or if different people are using it and making important changes, that's a way to keep that information logged there. And that's all I got.
All right, thanks, Sarah. Okay, HEC RAS, I'll cover for Andy here. Really, for HEC RAS, we're frozen with generation 6, so we are not really targeting any new enhancements for SWMS real time with this legacy RAS, as they're working on the new generation RAS. So we don't really anticipate having any enhancements there. Only thing is we'll try to keep up with any minor updates the RAS team releases for the generation 6 in the next couple of years. But in the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to be coordinating with the RAS team and then start planning for integration of the RAS 2025 generation in the future. All right. And then Simon, FIA.
All right, so in SWMS 3.4, we have included FIA 3.4. This was released beginning of the FY, and the main feature that was added was the ability to have agriculture flood damages reduced within the RAS HDF holdout simulation. So within one FIA simulation, it takes the inputs from 4 separate RAS simulations. So you've got your regulated with levee, regulated without levee, unregulated with levee, unregulated without levee. So all 4 simulations, and that can all go into one FIA simulation. That's also an improvement from FIA 3.3. So model linking is a straightforward process. As you can see here, you can link the HDF results directly in the model linking editor for your FIA run. And then also we improved the launching RAS mapper from FIA. This is specifically for the RAS HDF holdout simulation, so the FDR run. And what that does is once you've run a simulation, you can launch a RAS mapper by clicking on the simulation in FIA, and it will load all the output shapefiles, all the RAS runs, all the max depth grids, all in an instance of RAS mapper. So you can quickly take a look and make any look at the results and see what's going on to make sure it all makes sense for you. So if any questions on FIA or flood damages reduced, please let me and the team know. Thanks, Wallace.
Thanks, Simon. All right, just to wrap up here, there's more information. Obviously, we've got the documentation portal, so please visit that. And then most importantly too, is that we've been trying to keep up to date the known issues. So things that we put on hold for the next release version, they're summarized in the known issues. And if you wanted to see the known issues from the previous release. If you want to go back to 330 or 331, for example, and see the issues that were put on hold there, and if they've been addressed since, that's the best way to see those summaries. So you should be able to go to those pages and flip through the top right-hand corner there and look at the known issues per version and see what their status is. And so for some that we put off to future versions, we'll tag them for future versions. If they've been resolved, you'll see a tag like that. Or if it's still being worked on, there's a status identified per issue. And sometimes we provide a workaround as possible in the description. So please look through those. They're summarized component by component, and we try to keep them up to date as best we can. Okay, so we covered quite a bit, you know, from database CDA type updates to the various modeling suite. I know there's a bit of chatter happening pretty quick here on the chat, so we could start there. But anybody who's got questions, please feel free to unmute and come on and ask questions about anything we covered here. We've got a decent amount of time before the top of the hour, so we'll try to accommodate here. So real quick on the CDA scripts issues, Charlie, do you mind coming on and describing a little bit what you're reporting here?
Yeah. Well, so the DB API one, I don't know if that is an error. Like in the lead up to 3.4, we'd heard that we didn't need to make any Cavi side changes. But if in the DB API stuff isn't dead for us, we just get a lot of weird pop-ups. So I'm not sure if that is a problem or not. Some things are dead, some things occasionally are dead. We definitely lose connection to the database without knowing it, and that causes failures. But
so that's for scripts that are using the DB API or using CDA?
The Cavi side, it's all DB API scripts.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that's really the ask, Charlie. We're not supporting DB API anymore, so we're not going to be doing any bug fixes there. SWIMS Jython essentially replicated the capability, and you know, we're asking folks to update to that, and any issues there we'll address as fast as we can. So that's really the key, is that DB API is legacy, and we're transitioning from it.
But it still works. DB API still works in 3.4. People are still using DB API in 3.4. It's not removed. So your Cavi scripts can still run using DB API. We're just asking you to start to transition now.
So they should work as well as they did before, or?
Yes, they should.
Okay. So we're,
but if they're not,
so we're not sure if that is our issue then.
If they're not, the first step would be switch to SWIMS Jy, and then if you're still having issues, then we'll update SWIMS Jy. We won't make any changes to DB API if there's an issue there.
Right. We can test that. As long as it's just that one, it's just that one line in the Cavi. Nothing else needs to be done to make that, to enable that change. Then, right? We're not running it. We're not running this on our server side. We're not running SWIMS scripts on the server at all. So we're not, we haven't done setup to make that work. So if anything needs to be changed on the server also, then I don't know.
No, nothing needs to be changed on the server. DB API still works on the server too.
Mitch is asking if it's only limited to the local instance of CDA when you're working with SWIMS Jy. I don't think so. I think you should be able to work against the national database, the test one too. Am I right, Eric?
It should.
Yeah.
But when you're running your scripts, you should be running against your local. You shouldn't be running against SWIBI.
Yeah.
Hey, Fawaz, one thing I did want to mention for everyone is that we have our swims prospect class next week. And as part of that, we are currently recording all of our lectures and we'll be posting them on the HEC YouTube channel. So if you can't get out to the class, but you have employees that want to go through some of those lectures, those will all be available and be coming online very soon. So we'll make sure to send out a message on the team once they're all up there.
Yeah. All right, any questions, or do you want us to go back to any particular slide if you have an interest in a little bit more here while we're still with you? Okay. All right. Okay, I see your note, Sonia, on the scripting, Cavi scripts. Okay, we'll take a look at the issue that you reported there, if we haven't already. So sounds like scripting updates are a hot button topic here. Okay, if there's no questions, please feel free to reach out to us when you're updating. Like, we'll have these slides up so that you can see notes on the new stuff, and obviously we got the release notes. Yeah, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We also have the monthly MMC working sessions, where you can come in, and if you're trying new stuff and you want us to walk you through it, more than happy to do it. So yeah, but most importantly, with your updates, if you're stuck on anything, don't assume that it's an issue with the steps. It could be an issue with the software. Reach out to us. We'll try to help you as best as we can. So we don't want you hanging out by yourself there. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. Yep, Greg, the MEVI documentation, we're going to make that available in the next week. All right, last call for any questions? All right, well, thanks for your time. Appreciate also everybody's help that helped us with testing. And then we'll talk to you soon. All right, take care, everybody.